My name is Mike, and I'm going to die soon. The man in white is going to kill me. I don't know what to do. All I can do is tell, even though no one will believe me anyway. I guess that's how crazy people feel. When they know something, know for sure, but no one around them believes it and never will. But I'm not crazy. Yesterday morning I went out for a run, as usual. I've been running for 3 weeks now. I told everyone it was for my health, but what I really dreamed was that I would get in shape and Sarah would look at me differently. Sarah is my classmate. Officially we're friends, but I'm not okay with that. I run in the mornings before college. I'd leave the house at 6 in the morning. It was chilly. I remember thinking, when it gets really cold soon, I'll sign up for the pool. Every day I tried to change my route so it wasn't monotonous. But most of the time I always ran along the waterfronts. I just like being near the water. So yesterday I ran along the canal. I wish I had chosen a different route. There were hardly any people at this hour. A few passers-by, a sleeping homeless man, and the cops in the car talking. I met 3 of the same runners. I already knew their faces, and one man and I even exchanged nods. I was running as usual, thinking of Sarah, and suddenly I noticed something in the water. At first I didn't know what it was, but then I saw that it was a girl's face. I almost fell over because my legs seemed to stop running on their own. I didn't even give them that command. I just stood there like a stone. The girl was about my age. I didn't even think about rushing to save her or anything. She was dead, that's for sure. Her face looked almost white, with the usual debris that floats through the canals tangled in her hair. And I could see her dead eyes. The girl was certainly beautiful, but not now. There was something else. For the first second I thought she was looking at me. Now I think she must have been looking at me. The first thing I wanted to do was to call for help. I looked around, and then I saw him for the first time, but I didn't even pay much attention. A man dressed in white was standing in the deep shadows near one of the houses. At such a distance that I couldn't see him clearly, and I couldn't see his face at all. I even shouted in his direction, calling for help, but he didn't move, just turned his head in my direction. There was something wrong with him. I noticed the irregularity right away, but I just didn't have time to realize it. I was thinking about something else at the time. I didn't even have time to think about why this morning's passerby was all white. He's not responding, so what the hell? He doesn't know what's going on here is what I thought in that moment. I pulled out my phone and started dialing the police. When I looked again at where the man in white was standing, he was gone. The police arrived quickly. They were the same police officers I had run past. They took my contacts and let me go. By then, special people had arrived to get the body out of the water, and a small group of gawkers came from somewhere. I didn't stay to watch them pull her out. At home, I didn't tell my parents about the body in the canal. I decided I wasn't going to ruin the day, but would tell them in the evening. I took a shower, ate breakfast, and went to school. There I described what had happened in every detail, first to 2 friends, then several times to other students. I was embarrassed to write it, but I liked the attention. But Sarah, whom I most wanted to tell, was not there. It happened in the 3rd class. Our instructor started babbling something at the blackboard, and then Sarah showed up late and sat in the back row. While I was imagining how she would listen to my story after the class, the professor asked a question to someone in the back row, and I turned around as if to look, as usual, at the answer, but really to glance at Sarah. I turned. My heart felt like it had stopped, and I screamed. The man in white was sitting right behind me. But it wasn't a man. He had no face. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a human face. It was as if someone had erased the eyes, the nose, the mouth, leaving only the outline. There was no emotion. The scalp itself was not human-like, either the same white color as his clothes. It was smooth, matted, dead. He turned his head sharply toward me, and I distinctly heard the crunching of the cervical vertebrae. It was an unbearably disgusting sound, not just a crunch. I almost threw up. He had no eyes, but I knew he was looking right at me, point blank. I could feel it. It was like a wave of enormous anger was coming from him. I had never been so scared in my life. It only lasted a few seconds. I jumped up, pushing myself as hard as I could into my desk to get away from the man in white. The teacher called out to me, and I turned around to look at him for a second. When I turned back around, the man in white was gone. I came out of my stupor. My heart was racing. I was panting. Everyone was looking at me with a "what the fuck" look on their faces. And Sarah was looking. Then I realized that I was the only one who saw the man in white. As I rode the subway home, I kept looking over my shoulder. At one point I saw through the crowd of people dressed in white. Maybe, of course, I imagined it, or maybe it wasn't him. Maybe, but I don't think so. Mom and Dad were at work. I thoroughly checked the whole apartment, the balcony, the closets, even the refrigerator. I even laughed when I closed the door. Until the evening I just sat in my room and tried to watch social media. Didn't feel like eating. Got a text from Sarah. Decided not to respond for now. I started reading the city news and quickly saw a girl who had drowned. Her name was Martha. Everyone thought it was suicide. It was only on the news that I read that she had had a lunatic episode. She said she was being stalked by a man in white. No one believed her. Then I remembered her looking at me out of the water with dead eyes. That's how it was. Suddenly I heard some sound from the hallway. I didn't know what it was at the time. Something was falling to the floor. I got out of bed, one foot stiff and stabbing badly. I clung to the thought that the man in white couldn't be in the apartment. It must be Dad or Mom coming home from work. It wasn't until I grabbed the handle that I realized how wet my palms were. When I opened the door carefully, I saw the man in white standing at the end of the hallway. Again I felt him staring at me with his eyeless hollows. It was like I was stuck to the floor. A voice in my head screamed for me to go back to my room, to lock myself in, to call my parents, to call the police, to scream as hard as I could. But all I could do was watch. I could feel the hair on my arms stand up on end. It was like a dream. In the worst nightmare, the feeling that nothing would ever be good again. The man in white wrapped his right arm around the back of his head and took hold of his chin with the other. My breath caught. I tried to say something, I don't know what. But all I got was a hoarse sound, almost a sob. And at that moment he jerked his hands sharply. I heard the same disgusting, wet, crunching sound again. He had snapped his own neck. And then the man in white fell to the floor with the heavy sound I could hear from the room. That's when I came out of my stupor, bounced back into the room, and slammed the door. I haven't been out since. When my mother came home from work, she called me through the door for dinner. I lied that I had already eaten. I also said I wasn't feeling well. That was the truth. While my mom was talking to me, I heard a crunch and the sound of a body falling to the floor 4 feet away. I don't think I could tell my parents about all this. It's morning. I got a call an hour ago from some policeman. He's coming to the college, and we're supposed to meet him there. I got the feeling he knew something about what was going on. But I don't think he can help me. I feel the man in white is going to kill me exactly the way he's showing it. And I think I know what he was showing Martha. Even if this policeman knows something, how can I tell anyone? They'd just send me to the nut house. I wouldn't have believed it myself before. But maybe the first thing I'd do, if I lived to see college, would be to try to tell Sarah. Maybe just about the man in white, maybe about everything. As I write this, I hear him in the hallway craning his neck and falling. And again.
And again.